Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my video for The Boys Season 2 Episode 7. It was diabolical. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes this season. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. We'll also have some Season 3 stuff coming up real soon too. We're doing an Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite crazy moment from the episode on the video. So careful for spoilers, obviously from episode 7. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll do top 10 WTF and comic book Easter eggs as we go along. And there was a lot of comic book stuff going on during the episode. Starting with number 10, the intro with the guy getting brainwashed by all of Stormfront's social media programming. Watch out for that Facebook feed, that'll get ya. The episode basically starts with that guy just waking up in his bedroom, in his home. He lives with his mother, and it looks like he's a Stormfront fanboy and just spends all day on Facebook just reading his social media feeds, Twitter, everywhere, and he's just soaking in everything that she's doing with her social media push. Until he learns the convenience store clerk is a superhero that he's been seeing this whole time, and he's convinced that he's a terrorist because Stormfront's rhetoric has been telling him that, so he winds up killing him. Later in the episode, she winds up throwing this guy under the bus too, using him for her campaign, so it just shows you how much she manipulates people. Number 9, pretty big celebrity guest star, John Noble from Fringe and a bunch of other stuff, guest stars as Butcher's father. So Butcher's mother has to trick him into coming to her apartment in New York City to meet his father because they have such a strained relationship. You learn all about Butcher's backstory, and obviously you kind of see what they're doing this for. They're trying to create a parallel between his upbringing with his domineering father, who sounds like he mistreated him, maybe he physically abused him and his younger brother. You also find out what happened to his younger brother and how he died. And it gives you a sort of parallel for Homelander's upbringing with Vogelbaum, because Vogelbaum later in the episode talks about how crappy he was when he was raising Homelander. I needed him to be the strongest man in the world. But you basically find out that Butcher blames his father for his younger brother's death. I know there were a lot of theories about what was going on with Butcher's younger brother, but you learned that he wound up killing himself. He probably just became super depressed, maybe he had some sort of psychological condition, and his father also tries to pin some of the blame on Butcher, saying that he went to join the SAS before his brother wound up killing himself. So Butcher's been carrying this around this whole time with him, and that's where a lot of his darkness flows from, why he's so hardcore. Number 8, bunch of bad parents in the episode. Starlight meets up with her mother, but her mother inadvertently gets them captured by Black Noir by calling it in to Vought's tower. Oh, I talked to Ashley. No, Mom, you don't understand. I'm trying to be on the DL. While this is all going on, you have Frenchie and Kimiko's storyline. They weren't in the episode that much, but they're just there protecting the Congresswoman. They do bond a little bit, so their relationship is on the mend, and she starts to teach him that special sign language that she had with her brother. So I think eventually, by the end of the season, they will have some sort of relationship together. You also have all the stuff going on the side with the Deep and the Church of the Collective and A-Train. I'm surprised that A-Train is sticking around for all that stuff, but you remember they're kind of holding all this stuff over him like, we'll help you get back into the 7 if you do what we tell you to do, otherwise we're going to throw you to the wolves. They have this funny storyline with Eagle the Archer. Remember, he's meant to be their Hawkeye Avengers parody, the guy that was helping indoctrinate the Deep into the church in the first couple of episodes, and they just throw him right under the bus. The funny explainer that he gives at the end of the episode, though, when they're watching him at the bar, is that he refused to cut his mother out of his life, but at the party for the church leader, he just completely 180s on him, and the Deep just kind of nods his head and goes along with it. So I'm actually kind of wondering if A-Train is going to be the one to eventually save the Deep from this cult. He also references a meeting that he's going to be having with Stan Edgar really soon. Maybe they'll pay that off, but the way they ended the episode kind of makes you wonder. There's this whole big storyline going on with the church, so I'm hoping that they pay that off in some funny way by the finale. Number 7 WTF, all the adult movie parodies of the 7 that Lamplighter makes Huey watch with him. There's one for Translucent. The Queen Maeve one is called Queen Maeve Pleasure Slave, a reference that they pay off later in the episode, which itself is a comic book Easter egg. Big Black Noir, which is another reference that they pay off later in the episode when Maeve rips his mask off, revealing what he looks like underneath the mask. Then it's Starlight pulls an A-Train, and that's the one that puts Huey over the edge. He's just like, no more, please don't make me watch any more of these movies. Shawn Ashmore was great in this episode. You could just kind of tell that he knew that he was going to die very soon. He's like, I'm either going to die at the trial, or Vought is going to come get me, Homelander's going to come get me, or Black Noir's going to come get me. He does not care at all, but it is funny to watch Huey talk him into helping him save Starlight. Oh, we're gonna go get the wife, consensually. The whole thing with Starlight is they were keeping her in that superhero-proof cell that they have inside Vought's tower, so you do have to imagine that Black Noir does this a lot, like he goes around and takes down other superheroes that go rogue, or really anybody that Vought wants to get rid of. He's sort of their private hitman inside the Seven, so that's why he's the one that goes after Starlight at the beginning of the episode, and the one that tries to take her down after she escapes from her cell. Lamplighter makes a bunch more jokes about sneaking college girls in the secret entrance. He also tells them about hanging out with Marathon, who's the person that A-Train wound up replacing on the Seven. Number 6, Homelander and Stormfront's rally in front of the Soldier Boy statue. So they're trying to pump up the crowd against the congresswoman from earlier that also shows up at the trial later in the episode, and they go on and on about thoughts and prayers. It's all this rhetoric that sounds very familiar if you know what they're talking about. But the big Soldier Boy Easter egg is that he's actually going to be played by Jensen Ackles during Season 3. There's supposedly some crazy storyline they have planned for him, but he's basically their in-universe version of Captain America from the Avengers. Soldier Boy is supposed to be the first American experiment in creating a superhero. Now, he wasn't super successful, but the storyline for Season 3 that they have planned for him is supposed to explain that, and I think it's going to be different from the comic book Soldier Boy story. Stormfront has to explain to Homelander why keeping Starlight alive is more valuable to their tactics, their grand plan. She genuinely gets all misty-eyed at the sight of a baby girl just because she's thinking about her daughter who died recently. So Homelander, naturally being the good boyfriend that he is, wants to cheer her up, tells her about Ryan. So obviously this is huge. Number 5, Homelander takes Stormfront to see Ryan. I feel like everybody could kind of guess where this was headed the minute you saw Stormfront look at Ryan. She gives Becca the business left and right, trying to undermine her with every single word that comes out of her mouth. There's this really funny moment though when they're watching the Lego movies that Ryan made, and Homelander is about to tell him that they're crappy movies, and you can see Stormfront stare some daggers at him like, no, you have to tell him that it's a good movie. You need to encourage your son. But the movie that they're playing is actually based on The Blind Side. He just talks about a bunch of other movies that he created. They're all very positive movies. He seems like he's a very creative child, but Stormfront kind of starts to work her magic, her insidious magic, saying, do you do any normal kid stuff? And she actually talks about video games. She even name drops PewDiePie, which was hilarious. I thought it was funny that he would show up in a Boys episode. Then they start to plant the idea of the movies that Homelander has appeared in, trying to turn Ryan into a superhero fanboy so that eventually he'll want to be a superhero with them and use his powers. You can kind of see the way they're trying to manipulate the situation. They want him to be excited to become a superhero someday. It still feels like it's really early in the Ryan storyline with all the Superboy stuff that's going on, so I'm wondering how much of that is going to spill into Season 3. There's still so much that could happen in the finale. But number 4, Homelander and Stormfront then take off with Ryan. So Homelander and Stormfront have shown Ryan the truth. They take him up in the air so that he can see that his neighborhood is fake. Everything is fake. You're fake, Mom. Stormfront even basically tells Becca to her face that she's going to be Ryan's new mom now. The reason why this is a big deal is it sounds like Ryan might become a more important character in the future. Just remember everything, there's still so much that they could do with his character. Now he kind of seems like he wants to be a superhero a little bit, or maybe learn about his powers, so I'm hoping that they deal with that in a much bigger way during Season 3. But number 3, Butcher forces Vogelbaum to testify against Vought. So after Mallory and Mother's Milk come to visit him and don't quite get what they need, and she tells Mother's Milk that he should basically take off with his family, Butcher comes back to meet him and just gives him the business, sipping tea as menacingly as you could possibly do. The reason why this is super important is because their ace in the hole, Lamplighter, winds up burning himself alive later in the episode. I love Butcher's reaction to that too. Oh, don't worry, I got it all sorted out. The crazy thing about their conversation is that when Vogelbaum is telling him about Homelander's origin story, Homelander actually started out as a really good kid. When he was around 5 or 6, like he says, he loved Davy Crockett stories, he loved The Woods, Manifest Destiny, but then, because they needed him to be the world's most powerful superhero, he started to, quote-unquote, work on him. So Vogelbaum really is to blame for Homelander being the psychopath that he is in present day. But when Butcher sort of turns it on him and says, I'll kill your entire family, like he turns on a dime the same way that Homelander would. So they want Butcher to be a bit of a parallel for Homelander. It is weird that Vogelbaum is surprised by that. How could you be such a monster when he literally just told Butcher that he was a monster when he was raising Homelander? But number 2, Starlight versus Black Noir, Huey and Lamplighter. So Lamplighter takes Huey to the main conference room instead of to Starlight's cell because we find out that he wanted to kill himself in front of his statue, the Seven, which they had already replaced, bumming him out. So RIP Shawn Ashmore. It's just funny to see him go from the X-Men movies to playing such a hardcore character who's a bit of a parody on the Pyro character from the X-Men movies. But if you haven't read the Boys comic book, the Lamplighter character in the comics is meant to be more of a Green Lantern Easter egg. Huey has to saw his hand off so that he can get around. They kind of play it for a joke a little bit later, like, wait a minute, is that a human hand that you're walking around with? Yeah, okay, we need to go. Then Black Noir and Starlight have a proper superhero fight because they're both super strong. They trash the place. Black Noir almost kills her because he is a badass, but Queen Maeve winds up saving her with an almond joy. Turns out those allergies will really get you, so watch out. But the real big deal here, though, is them ripping his face mask off and showing you what he looks like underneath. So his face is scarred from a lot of that burn damage, which is probably from earlier in the season when he took down that energy-based superhero. But if it wasn't clear before, he is an African American, so I think it changes a lot of people's expectations for the storyline for the Black Noir character. I think they're going to be changing that from the comics. He's a very big, very critical comic book character, so not just adjust all your fan theories based on that. But if you have read the comics, please don't post any Black Noir spoilers in the comments, because they still might wind up doing some of that for the TV show. Then obviously, number one WTF is the trial at the end of the episode. Butcher gets Vogelbaum to come testify, but right as he gets ready to speak, everyone's heads start exploding left and right, both superheroes and regular people. RIP Shockwave. You have to remember that this is happening on national television, so potentially millions of people are watching this all go down. But if you look at Stormfront and Homelander's faces, they don't seem that surprised by it, so it sounds like they know what's going on and it's all part of some plan that they had. They'll probably spin it as some sort of terrorist attack and try to use it as part of their Compound V campaign that they're on. There have been a lot of theories about who that superhero is that's exploding all those heads, but obviously it is a superhero with the ability to do that. The only person we've seen with that ability was Cindy from a couple episodes ago. Remember, she was hitching a ride at the end of that episode when she escaped, so it's possible that she came back and she's doing this. As far as we know, Shockwave is the only super that they killed in that room. Ashley is still okay, the Congresswoman and Mallory are still okay, and Butcher, as he's reacting to it all, just seems like he is ready to go to war with a vengeance. And I can't wait to see what crazy thing he winds up doing in the finale. But the important thing to remember is that there'll probably be some sort of cliffhanger moment in the finale because The Boys has already been renewed for Season 3, and it'll probably go to Season 4 and hopefully Season 5 as well. But let me know in the comments what your favorite moment from the episode was, and if you spotted any big Easter eggs that I didn't mention in the video. My finale video will post next Friday, just like I would normally post my episode videos, and in a couple weeks, the Mandalorian Season 2 episodes will be starting. I'll be doing videos for that, and then we'll get Avengers Wandavision episodes later this year. So there's a bunch of big stuff coming up. As long as you have alerts enabled for my channel, you should see all those videos when I post them. Earlier today, it was announced that Marvel is going to be crossing characters over from Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man movies with Spider-Man 3 and Tom Holland. Click here to learn about that, and click here for my Boys Season 2 Episode 6 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.